Scary telling.
I was on my way to work, and I had a lot on my mind. I had been feeling stressed out for weeks, and I was worried about meeting a deadline that was coming up soon. As I walked down the street, I noticed a woman standing on the corner, smoking an e-cigarette. She looked calm and collected, which was the opposite of how I was feeling at the moment. As I walked past her, I made eye contact with the woman, and something strange happened. Suddenly, I heard a voice in my head that said, "Don't stress, there is nothing to stress about." It wasn't like any voice I had ever heard before. It was clear, powerful, and seemed to be coming from somewhere deep within me. The moment the voice spoke, all of my stress and anxiety vanished. It was like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, and I felt light and carefree. I couldn't believe how different I felt, and I knew that something unusual had just occurred. I continued walking to work, feeling calm and relaxed, and the strange voice continued to speak to me in my head. It told me to take things easy, to slow down, and to enjoy the moment. I felt like I was under some kind of spell, and I couldn't help but obey the voice's commands. When I arrived at work, my colleagues noticed that I was acting differently. I was smiling, laughing, and seemed to be in a good mood, which was unusual for me. I couldn't explain what had happened, but I knew that I had been changed in some way. As the day went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. The voice in my head continued to speak to me, but it was becoming more insistent, almost demanding. It told me that I needed to do something, but it wouldn't say what. By the time I finished work, I was feeling anxious again. The calm that had come over me earlier was gone, and I was back to my usual stressed out self. I couldn't wait to get home and try to forget about the strange encounter I had earlier that day. That evening, as I sat in my apartment, I couldn't stop thinking about the woman with the e-cigarette and the strange voice in my head. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but I knew deep down that something had happened to me. As I sat on my couch, trying to distract myself with TV, the voice in my head grew louder and more insistent. It told me that I needed to go back to where I had seen the woman and find out what was going on. I tried to resist the voice's commands, but it was like it had taken over my mind. I couldn't focus on anything else, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to rest until I did what it was telling me to do. So, I got from the couch, put on my coat, and headed out into the night. It was dark and cold, and I felt a sense of unease as I made my way to the corner where I had seen the woman earlier that day. When I arrived, I saw that the woman was still there, smoking her e-cigarette. She looked up as I approached, and I could see that she was studying me closely. "Hello," she said, her voice low and smooth. "Can I help you with something?" I tried to speak, but my throat felt tight, and I couldn't get the words out. The woman continued to watch me, her eyes piercing and intense. Finally, I managed to stutter out a few words. I just wanted to. I was here earlier, and I heard a voice in my head." The woman nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting me. "Yes, I know," she said. "I'm the one who put it there." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. What do you mean?" The woman smiled, and it was a smile that sent chills through me. "I have a gift," she said. "I can control people's minds. And I saw that you were stressed out, so I decided to help you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman had put a voice in my head, had taken control of my mind without my consent. I felt violated and angry, but at the same time, I couldn't deny that the voice had helped me earlier that day. The woman continued to smile at me, and I knew that I had to get away from her. But as I turned to leave, she spoke again. "Be careful," she said, her voice low and ominous. "You never know who might be watching you." As I walked away from the woman with the e-cigarette, my mind was racing. I couldn't believe that someone had the power to control my thoughts, and I felt violated and vulnerable. The voice in my head was still there, but it was quieter now, almost like it was waiting for me to make a move. I knew that I needed to find a way to get rid of it, but I had no idea how. Over the next few days, the voice grew louder and more persistent. It told me to do things, to go places, to talk to people, all with a sense of urgency that I couldn't ignore. I tried to resist the voice's commands, but it was like it had taken over my mind. I couldn't focus on anything else, and I knew that I needed to find a way to break free from its hold. One day, as I was walking through the park, the voice spoke to me again. "Go to the abandoned house," it said. "You need to go there now." I tried to resist, but the voice was too strong. I found myself walking towards the abandoned house, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached the house, I could feel a sense of foreboding. The place was dark and dilapidated, and it looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. But the voice in my head was insistent. It told me to go inside, to explore the house, to find what I was looking for. So, I pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the only light came from a few broken windows. As I walked through the house, I could feel something watching me, something dark and malevolent. I tried to ignore it, but it was like it was closing in on me, suffocating me. Finally, I reached the top of the stairs and saw a door at the end of the hallway. The voice in my head was urging me to open it, to see what was inside. I hesitated for a moment, but then I reached out and turned the doorknob. What I saw inside the room made my blood run cold. There was a woman lying on the floor, her body twisted and broken. And standing over her was the woman with the e-cigarette, a look of satisfaction on her face. I knew then that I had to get out of there, that I had to break free from the voice's hold. But as I turned to leave, the woman with the e-cigarette spoke again. "Welcome to my world," she said, her voice low and menacing. "You're never going to leave." I ran out of the abandoned house, my heart racing with fear and adrenaline. The woman with the e-cigarette was right behind me, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. As I stumbled down the stairs, I could feel her getting closer, her cold breath on my neck. I knew that I had to get away, but I didn't know how. Finally, I burst through the front door and into the night air. I ran as fast as I could, not daring to look back, and didn't stop until I was back at my apartment. Once I was inside, I collapsed onto the couch, gasping for breath. The voice in my head was gone, but I knew that the woman with the e-cigarette was still out there, waiting for me. I tried to call the police, but when I dialed 911, the line was dead. I tried again and again, but the same thing happened every time. I knew that I was on my own, that I had to find a way to protect myself from the woman's mind control. But how could I do that? I didn't have any special powers or abilities, and I had no idea how to fight back against something like this. As I sat on the couch, trying to think of a plan, I heard a knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I knew that it was the woman with the e-cigarette. I hesitated for a moment, but then I got up and opened the door. The woman was standing there, a smug smile on her face. "Hello, again," she said. "I see you've been trying to call for help. That won't work, I'm afraid. You're mine now, and there's nothing you can do about it." I tried to push past her, but she was too strong. She grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me towards her, her eyes boring into mine. "Listen to me," she said. "You can't escape me. I control your mind, your thoughts, your every move. And there's nothing you can do about it." I felt a sense of hopelessness wash over me. She was right. I was trapped, a prisoner in my own mind. But then something inside me snapped. I realized that I couldn't give up, that I had to fight back against this woman and the hold she had over me. I pushed her away from me and stood up straight, my eyes blazing with determination. "You may have control over my mind," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "But you don't control my spirit. I will fight back against you, and I will win." The woman laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "We'll see about that," she said. "We'll see." Over the next few days, I did everything I could to break free from the woman's mind control. I meditated, I practiced mindfulness, I tried to stay focused on the present moment. At first, it didn't seem like it was making much of a difference. The woman's voice was still in my head, still urging me to do things that I didn't want to do. But then, slowly but surely, I started to feel like I was regaining control over my own thoughts. The voice was still there, but it was quieter now, easier to ignore. One night, as I was lying in bed, I felt a sudden surge of energy. It was like something inside me had snapped into place, like I had finally broken free from the woman's hold. I sat up in bed, feeling more alive than I had in weeks. The voice in my head was gone, replaced by a sense of peace and clarity. I knew then that I had won, that I had beaten the woman with the e-cigarette and her mind control. I felt invincible, like I could take on anything that came my way. The next day, I went about my business as usual, but everything felt different. I felt more confident, more in control, more alive. And then, as I was walking down the street, I saw the woman with the e-cigarette again. This time, she didn't look so calm and collected. She looked scared, almost desperate. "Please," she said, grabbing me by the arm. "You have to help me. I don't know what's happening to me." I hesitated for a moment, but then I remembered everything she had done to me, everything she had put me through. I pulled away from her and walked away, feeling a sense of satisfaction that I had never felt before. From that day on, I knew that I was stronger than I had ever realized. I had overcome something that had seemed impossible, and I had come out on top. And as I walked through the streets, feeling the sun on my face and the wind in my hair, I knew that nothing could ever hold me back again.